Kentucky, this is Mary Jo Perino. Tonight, the SEC announces when student athletes can return to campus. The holiday weekend brings more business openings, and get a look at UK basketball's top-ranked recruiting class. All that and more is next on Hey Kentucky. Welcome into Hey Kentucky. I'm Mary Jo Perino. Keith Farmer is off tonight to watch his son Cameron get married. So congratulations to the Farmer family for adding in a new daughter-in-law. So I'm going solo again for our first segment tonight. Let's do it. The SEC has announced that student athletes can return to their campuses for voluntary workouts beginning June 8th. After voting on the matter today. But it's not yet clear if the University of Kentucky will follow that exact guidance. Athletic Director Mitch Barnhart says UK will work with state and local government and university levels to determine the date for such a return. Barnhart says, quote, "We will not compromise the safety and well-being of our student athletes in this process, taking all possible precautions." Now, obviously, the University of Louisville is welcoming back some of its student athletes as early as next week. So I would assume that they had worked with state and local government to make sure that was safe. So UK will have to decide what they want to do and if June 8th will, in fact, be the day. Today marked the first day that restaurants could open in the state, and Kentuckians are now allowed to gather in groups of 10 or less. Certain child care centers can start opening June 8th. They are the in-home programs that generally have 10 kids or less. On June 15th, larger center-based providers can open their doors. Governor Beshear also announced last night that bars will be able to open June 29th, and you can have gatherings of up to 50 people then. Of course, this is all subject to change. Kentucky's COVID-19 testing capacity has been surging in recent weeks, eventually exceeding the daily average recommended by the White House in order to safely begin reopening the economy. And today we learned that the state is going to receive nearly $100 million from the CDC for testing, processing, contact tracing, and other resources for fighting COVID-19. So all those restrictions needed to phase back in the economy, Kentucky is meeting those standards, which is good news. All right. Kentucky Senator Rand Paul is once again taking aim at Governor Andy Beshear and others over the decisions regarding the economy during this pandemic. The Bowling Green Republican told his hometown TV station that Beshear shoulders all responsibility for the state's 700,000 unemployed, and that those workers should voice their complaints directly to the governor's office. Paul says no one person should rule the state economy, and Beshear should be stripped of his emergency power as soon as possible. It's not the first time the senator has said the governor has crossed the line. Meanwhile, Paul also contributed to an op-ed that takes aim at the nation's top infectious diseases expert. The editorial says Dr. Anthony Fauci, quote, persists in advocating policies that have emasculated the medical care system and ruined the economy, end quote. So which is it, Rand Paul? Is Governor Beshear solely responsibility for the loss of all these jobs, or is Dr. Anthony Fauci the one whose responsibility it is for the loss of all these jobs? Listen, everyone was trying to figure this out together. The name calling probably isn't going to help at this point. All right, in Frankfort today, legislators heard from an outside group regarding the state's budget forecast. It's been more than a month since the legislature ended its 2020 session and decided to reduce the typical two-year budget plan to only 1 year since the pandemic made long-term planning impossible. Today, they returned to the subject. Last night on Hey Kentucky, Governor Beshear talked about the possibility that the meeting would end with the need for a special session.
We think that there's a possibility that just the transportation cabinet budget will be over the amount that may require a special session. If that's the case, it'll be short. It'll basically be just changing a number. But what we want to make sure is that there's the flexibility in there for when Congress acts, because they have to act. Every single governor of all 50 states together agree and are pushing for another round of the stimulus, another round of the CARES Act.
Now, late this afternoon, legislators discussed the need for a special session, at least to address issues with the road fund, which is what Governor Beshear mentioned yesterday. But there was no immediate word from the governor on that, on whether he would in fact be calling that special session. All right, in other news, state and federal investigators are looking into claims of nepotism and wasting public money at 3 of Kentucky's county attorney's offices. The state auditor's office claims the Lawrence County attorney gave his wife a $126,000 bonus from delinquent tax fees. They say their investigation into the former office manager at the Boyd County Attorney's Office led to a 77-count indictment for embezzling more than $100,000. And the auditor says the Gallatin County's Attorney's Office paid more than $36,000 to cover personal costs and expenses for his private law office.
And certainly you cannot commingle funds. You cannot use public funds for personal or private office practices. So it was, it was a little surprising. It was, but anytime you shine sunlight on something, it takes a while, and it's good for everybody, including the taxpayers. Definitely the taxpayers.
The auditor has referred his findings to the IRS, the Kentucky Department of Revenue, and the Attorney General, as well as state and federal law enforcement for review. Goodness, if that's accurate, shame on them. All right, amid thousands of job losses in the healthcare industry, there is some promising news in Lexington. Mayor Linda Gordon has announced a $1 billion construction project for a new hospital and fire station in the Hamburg area. She says the project is coming together after years of planning thanks to a partnership with Baptist Health Lexington. Situated near the Cabela's store, it's expected to bring 600 to 700 new jobs and help serve the many Baptist Health patients who live outside of Lexington.
This project itself is a huge boon and expansion to our healthcare sector here in Fayette County. We are looked upon in the whole region as a healthcare hub, a hub of really high quality healthcare.
Construction is expected to begin this year and finish in 2024, but the mayor cautions the coronavirus may cause delays. But what a great thing for folks who live in Richmond or Winchester or other areas just south of Lexington to make it so much easier to get to quality health care. And it's going to be, 600 to 700 new jobs. That is something. All right, now in Hey Kentucky, in case you missed it, a review of recent headlines. There's another big development in the Breonna Taylor case in Louisville. Prosecutors have announced plans to drop charges against the boyfriend of the EMT who was shot and killed by police in March, saying that a grand jury should have seen more information before deciding to indict Kenneth Walker for firing at officers when they broke into the couple's apartment. Meanwhile, a new survey finds that Mitch McConnell's job approval continues to trend low, even as the longtime senator runs for re-election. Public policy polling reports that 41% of voters approve and 48% disapprove. And in Western Kentucky, hundreds of voters took advantage of a mobile unit set up this week to allow early voting in the primary election. This, as the Secretary of State reminds us that the deadline to register is next Tuesday at 4 p.m. Up next on Hey Kentucky, we're going to talk some UK basketball. Anytime is a good time for that. David Sisk of Rivals.com will talk about the new final rankings for Coach Cal's incoming recruiting class. Stay with us.